In February 1997, a Texas jury handed down the death penalty for Darlie Routier, a 27-year-old mother convicted of murdering her 5-year-old son. That was nearly 29 years ago, and yet, Darlie remains alive. No execution has been carried out, no official date set. Still, the punishment she endures daily may be far harsher than death itself. On June 6, 1996, at 2:31 a.m., Rowlett, Texas emergency dispatchers received a frantic call from Darlie, screaming that her children had been stabbed. Police arrived within minutes to a scene of horror. 6-year-old Devon was already dead, and 5-year-old Damon succumbed shortly after paramedics arrived. Darlie herself bore deep knife wounds to her throat and arm, the cut to her neck perilously close to a major artery. She insisted that an intruder had attacked them while they slept. Her husband Darren and their 7-month-old baby, Drake, were upstairs, oblivious to the chaos below. Investigators noticed a cut screen in the garage and discovered a bloody sock 75 yards from the house containing blood from both boys. Yet within hours, authorities shifted focus, turning their attention entirely toward Darlie. 7 months later, the trial began. Prosecutors painted a picture of a woman overwhelmed by stress and material desires, suggesting that Darlie had inflicted her own wounds, staged the scene, and killed her children because they were obstacles in her life. The defense argued otherwise. No motive, no confession, no witnesses, only a mother claiming an intruder had struck. Tension escalated when prosecutors presented a video showing Darlie at a cemetery 8 days after the murders, laughing, chewing gum, and spraying silly string on her children's graves during a gathering for what would have been Devon's 7th birthday. The jury never saw footage of the solemn prayers and private grieving that had taken place beforehand. The defense also emphasized the near-fatal neck wound, arguing it would have been nearly impossible to inflict on herself. After 2 days of testimony, the jury deliberated for 8 hours before returning a verdict of guilty on capital murder charges. 3 days later, Darlie was sentenced to die by lethal injection. Her mother later reflected that the jury's deliberations seemed to focus on the silly string rather than the full context of grief. Darlie was transferred to the Patrick O'Daniel unit in Gatesville, Texas, home to all female death row inmates. Her world became a 60-square-foot cell, smaller than most bathrooms, with a bunk, a combined toilet and sink, a stool, a metal desk, steel doors, and a single window. That confined space has been her life since 1997. Female inmates have slightly different privileges than males. They are allowed 2 hours of recreation daily if they don't work, or 4 hours of labor and 2 hours of recreation if they do, plus limited television time. Visiting rooms are well lit, visitation occurs on certain days of the week, and phone calls are heavily restricted, often to just a few 5-minute calls annually. Yet none of these allowances change the core reality. Every moment on death row is governed by observation, isolation, and the ever-present question of when, if ever, execution will come. It is the waiting that has defined Darlie's existence. She entered death row at 27. She is now 55. She has spent more time behind bars than she did as a free adult. Her youngest son, Drake, was just 7 months old when she was convicted. He is now 29. She has missed every milestone of his life, from childhood to adulthood. Her marriage ended in 2011, though Darren has maintained publicly that he believes in her innocence. Family visits are monitored, conducted through glass partitions or under the watchful eye of guards. Throughout, Darlie has steadfastly proclaimed her innocence, consistently refusing to confess or change her story. She has said in interviews that it is crucial for the public to hear directly from her that she did not kill her children. What makes her ordeal uniquely cruel is the fragile hope that has accompanied the despair. Since 2018, multiple rounds of DNA testing have been ordered as technology has advanced. Yet as of December 2025, the results remain pending. Defense attorney Steve Cooper explained that this is now the 3rd round of testing, delayed by bureaucratic issues that sometimes prevented materials from being sent. The evidence being examined includes the sock found away from the scene, hairs recovered from the sock, clothing and bedding, fingernail clippings from the children, a bloody knife, and an unidentified fingerprint that has never been matched to anyone in the family. Cooper acknowledged there is no definitive proof yet to support the intruder theory, but the testing continues. For Darlie, each day brings the potential for vindication or confirmation of guilt. She waits in a tiny cell while the years pass, her hope and despair intertwined, a psychological pressure that few can imagine. The weight of death row is not the execution itself, it is every day spent anticipating it. She has now lived through 10,585 days under constant surveillance, with restricted communication, limited family contact, and the unrelenting question of when, or if, the sentence will ever be carried out. She has watched other women come and go, witnessing executions, appeals, and departures, including that of Carla Faye Tucker in 1998, the first woman executed in Texas since 1863. Darlie observed it all, aware that her own day could come at any moment. Studies show that such prolonged confinement produces severe depression, anxiety, and PTSD, breaking people in ways a swift execution could never achieve. Her case remains one of the most contentious in the United States. Supporters point to the unidentified fingerprint, the bloody sock, her severe injuries, and delayed DNA testing, creating websites, rallies, and public campaigns in her defense. Young researchers and advocates have fought for access to evidence, some even studying the case for years. Critics argue that the scene was staged, that her actions after the murders were suspicious, and that the DNA evidence already collected supports her conviction. Prosecutors assert that they tested over 100 DNA samples from the scene, all matching Darlie and her sons, reinforcing their confidence in her guilt. Yet regardless of perspective, one fact is indisputable. She has spent nearly 30 years in the shadow of death, caught in a system slowed by appeals and bureaucratic delays that stretch the punishment far beyond the original sentence. The ethical question her story raises is profound. Is it justice to sentence someone to death and then leave them alive in a 60-square-foot cell for decades? Is it justice to order testing that could confirm innocence or guilt, only to let administrative delays prolong the uncertainty? Some argue that these long appeals are necessary to prevent wrongful executions, and indeed, lives have been saved because of them. But at what point does the process itself become a form of cruel and unusual punishment? By January 2026, Darlie Routier will turn 56. She may spend 30 or more years awaiting execution, potentially losing a lifetime behind bars for a crime she did not commit. If she dies naturally before any conclusion, her life will have been spent waiting for a death that never arrived. The slow, relentless passage of time has turned hope itself into a weapon of torment, making her sentence potentially worse than death. For most, life in prison, even on death row, feels merciful compared to execution. There is always hope. Appeals exist to protect the innocent. Execution ends life swiftly. But Darlie's experience exposes a darker reality. Decades of waiting, confined to a tiny cell, under constant observation, watching life pass by without certainty. If you were faced with a swift death or 30 years trapped in that small space, never knowing whether your final day had come, which would you choose? For Darlie, there was never a choice. The jury decided her fate. The system has given her another form of punishment, one measured not in hours, but in decades of suspended life. Her appeals continue. DNA tests continue. Public debate continues. And Darlie Routier continues to live each day, still in that 60-square-foot cell, enduring her 10,585th day on death row, with no end in sight.